All right, we're recording.
Hey guys, so it's our first online lesson. Let's see how this goes. So we're going to start with ELA for reading. If you have your March calendar, which you probably have in your red folder because you probably were reading in your reading log, it says that our strategy for this month is visualizing. Remember, that means that we're going to paint a picture in our mind while we read the story. And since the book is kind of far away, you're going to probably have to do a lot of painting of pictures in your mind so that you can see the visual of what the story is about. So we're going to be visualizing. We're also going to be using the skill of finding the theme. That's brand new. In my class, we haven't learned about that yet. Maybe you already have. Finding a theme means that you're going to think of, what is this story teaching me? Did I learn a lesson from this story? Did I learn something that I can use in my own life from these characters? So keep that in mind, visualizing and theme. When we look at this, we see visualizing and theme are on our March sheet. We have a couple weeks of March left, so we need to get these done. On your March paper, you also have some words. I'll show you these later. And you have a vocabulary strategy. We're going to learn that this week. Similes and root words, we're going to work on that this week. And also our foundation skills. That'll be a separate video. You can learn foundations later on. We're going to look at our first story in our Reading Wonders book. And in this chapter, there is a vocabulary word list on page 302. This is the vocabulary that's going to go with the first two stories that we're going to read. There's 8 words. I know you can't see it very well, but I'm going to read it to you. If you want to write the words in your notebook, you can write them down. The first word is ashamed. Ashamed. Kim felt very ashamed that she hurt her friend's feelings. When you feel ashamed, it's like you feel embarrassed, like you feel like you did something that you know that you should not have done, so that makes you feel very ashamed. It says, can you describe a time when you were ashamed? You can write about that in your journal. If you want to write this word in your journal, it's A-S-H-A-M-E-D, ashamed. The next word is boast. They always boast that they are the best team. Boasting is like when you tell everybody that you're better than them, when you're boasting that you won something. I won and you didn't win, that's boasting. Most people don't think it's very nice. It says, what are some things that you might boast about? If you want to write it in your journal, boast is B-O-A-S-T, boast. The next word is dash. People had to dash to get out of the rain. Dashing is kind of like running or walking very quickly when you dash away from something. How do you move when you dash somewhere? Can you picture running through the rain? That would be dashing to get somewhere quickly. Sometimes deer and animals dash. They dash through your backyard. If you would like to write that one in your notebook, it's D-A-S-H, dash. Number 4 is holler. I heard Sandy holler for her dog. Hollering is like yelling or using a loud voice. She's hollering for her dog. You know, I have my dog. She's sitting right there. Penny! You can holler for Penny. She's looking at me pretty funny. If you want to write holler in your notebook, it's H-O-L-L-E-R. Number 5 is plenty. There was plenty of fresh corn at the picnic. Plenty means you have quite a bit of it. They had plenty of corn. In the picture, there's about 30 ears of corn on a tray. What is something that you have plenty of? We have plenty of time on our hands, don't we? We have plenty of days off. Plenty means a lot. If you want to write plenty in your notebook, it's P-L-E-N-T-Y. The next word is a long word, similarities. There are many similarities between my brother and me. Similarities means things that are the same. Mrs. Spadone, she just had twins. They have similarities, right? They have things that are the same. They both probably cry sometimes at the same time. They both probably drink their bottles at the same time, and they look a little bit similar, right? Similarities means when things are kind of the same. If you want to write it in your journal, it's a long word. S-I-M-I-L-A-R-I-T-I-E-S. Similarities. Number 7, victory. Winning a race was a great victory for our team. Tell about a victory that you have had. I think that Mrs. O'Connor's class had a victory when they won our indoor field day the other day. Remember we were in the gym and we played all those races? Mrs. O'Connor's class won. They had a victory. They had the trophy. If you want to write victory in your notebook, it's V-I-C-T-O-R-Y. Victory. The last word, number 8, is wisdom. Grandpa used his wisdom to help me solve my problem. Some people say owls have wisdom. That means you're very smart and you can solve problems. Grandpa had wisdom. He's helping her on the laptop solve her problem. Wisdom is W-I-S-D-O-M. Wisdom. Tell how you know that somebody has wisdom. You can write about somebody that you know who has wisdom in your notebook. When I read the story today, we're going to look for these words: ashamed, boast, dash, holler, plenty, similarities, victory, wisdom. Here we go. The 2 stories that we're going to read this week, they're both not a regular story like a fable that we've been reading. They're both written like a play. So there's lots of characters that are saying different things. Now, if you were here with me, I could let you be the different characters and read the story, but I'm all by myself, so I have to be all the characters. So remember, we're going to visualize, which means you have to use your mind as a canvas so you can paint a picture of the story, and you're going to figure out, did this story teach us something? Does it have a theme? Is there something I learned from this story? So first we're going to read the short story that's in this book. It's called Why the Sun and the Moon Live in the Sky. It says that this is a drama, which is kind of interesting, and it is set up like a play. Here are the characters. The narrator, that's the person who tells the story. Then the sun is going to talk. The moon is going to talk. And the sun's wife. Also water. I guess there's talking water in this story. Okay, here we go. If you can't see the picture, we have a breakfast table here. The sun and the moon are sitting at the breakfast table eating some sunny side up eggs and bacon. Looks like they're having breakfast. This is a play, so I'm going to read all the characters. This play is based on an African folktale that tells how the moon and the sun ended up in the sky. So remember, we're reading to visualize, and we're going to think of the theme. The story is saying that it's going to tell us how the sun and the moon ended up in the sky. Let's see if we think that this is a real story. Long ago, the sun, the moon, and the water lived together on the earth. Sun and moon are eating breakfast at home. The sun said, I will visit my good friend water today. And the moon said, that sounds enjoyable, but why doesn't water ever visit us? Do you feel ashamed or embarrassed to invite water here? Ashamed was in the story. The sun said, no, I am proud of our house. I will invite water today. So they agreed they're going to invite water over to their house. So the sun went to visit the water at the beach. So the sun is up here. Here's the water. He's a big wave. And apparently he can talk to the sun. So the sun went to visit the water at the beach. The sun says, hey water, why don't you ever come and visit us? And the water said, your house can't hold me and my family. The sun said, that's nonsense. The moon and I will enlarge our house so there will be plenty of room for everyone. Plenty of room. Water said, okay, then I will visit you. And the sun said, wonderful, please holler loudly so I hear when you arrive. Now I must dash home quickly to start the work. So the sun rushes home. The narrator says, sun and moon raced to make their home larger. They added rooms and raised the roof higher. The new house was completely different and had no similarities, that's a vocabulary word, to their old home. They felt it was a victory, that's a word, or a win for now that their friend could visit. Water said, "Hey, sun and moon, I have arrived." Sun said, "Isn't this the largest home that you've ever seen?" The moon said, "Sun, it's not polite to brag, so please don't boast," that's a word, "to our guest. Water, come inside." Water splashed through the door, carrying colorful fish, frogs, and crabs. As the water began to rise, Sun and Moon climbed into the furniture. Then they scrambled off onto the roof. The Sun said, "Hey, Moon, I'm not sure about the wisdom of inviting water. Perhaps this was not a smart idea." The Moon said, "No, Sun, it was the right thing to do, but we must fly to safety." Sun and Moon flew up to the sky, where they remain today and still shine down on water. Well, that's a silly story. So this was a folktale. So a folktale is trying to explain why things are the way they are right now. So if we look back at the title, Why the Sun and the Moon Live in the Sky. So this is trying to tell us a story, seems kind of silly to me, about how they tried to invite water over, and because they had to get away from the water, who pretty much took over their house, they flew up to the sky and the water stayed down on the earth. So at the end, Sun and Moon flew to the sky, where they remain today and still shine down on the water. So this is interesting. We had all our vocabulary words in here. We were trying to visualize. I hope that you were trying to paint a picture in your mind of the sun and the moon eating breakfast together and expanding their home so big for the water to come in. And then we are talking about the theme of the story. This story actually has a theme at the end. I would like you to take a minute and see if you can figure out what the theme of the story is. Is there anything that we learned after this story? It says on this page, the theme of the story is the main message that the author wants to tell the reader. To find the theme, think about what the characters say and do. I remember one part where he was trying to teach him a lesson by saying, "Son, it's not polite to brag, so please don't boast to our guest." That was one thing I learned, that it's not polite to brag. What else did you learn about the characters in the story? Think about that for a second. We're going to go back to our vocabulary words that we heard in the story. The moon said, "That sounds enjoyable, but why doesn't water ever visit us? Do you feel ashamed or embarrassed to invite water here?" The word that's highlighted is ashamed. Ashamed is the same thing as embarrassed. So he said, "Why don't you ever invite the water over? Are you embarrassed to invite him?" And he said, "No, I'm not embarrassed to invite him. I'll go invite him today." The other word was plenty. "I will enlarge our house so there's plenty of room." Plenty means a lot. So he said, if I make a bigger house, we can have a lot of room, plenty of room. The next word was holler. "Wonderful, please holler loudly so I can hear when you arrive. Now I must dash home quickly to start the work." Remember, dash was like running through the rain. So he had to dash home quickly because he had a big job to do. He had to make his house big enough to put the water in, which I don't really know how he did that. The next word was similarities. The new house was completely different. It had no similarities. So if something is similar, it's the same. But he changed his house so much that there was nothing the same about it. It was completely different. Wow, that was a lot of work that he had to do. They felt it was a victory. Remember, a victory was when you win something. So he said they felt it was a victory or a win that their friend could visit. They felt like they won. They won by making their house so big that water could visit. We had the word boast. It's not polite to brag, so please don't boast to our guest. Boast means don't brag about it. Don't tell everybody how wonderful it is. Don't brag about it too much. So then the water came inside. The last word in the story was wisdom. I'm not sure about the wisdom of inviting water. Perhaps this was not a smart idea. So wisdom is having a smart idea, and he didn't think that this was smart. If you can see the picture, look at what happened. Here's the house. The water is coming out of all of the windows. It's coming out of the top. It's flowing out everywhere. Actually, the house looks like it's floating away. So he said, hey, maybe this wasn't very much wisdom. We didn't have a lot of wisdom when we made this decision. But he said, no, I think it was the right thing to do because we invited our friend Water over. But then to get away from this big, look at this mess here, water everywhere, they floated up to the sky. And that is how, supposedly, according to this folktale, why the sun and the moon live in the sky. So we learned about a folktale. A folktale is explaining why something is the way it is. So we learned why one person who wrote this folktale thinks that the sun and the moon are up in the sky. We learned our vocabulary words, which you have written down in your notebook so you can keep studying those. We learned to visualize, paint that picture in our head, because this book doesn't really have too many pictures. And we talked about the theme, lessons learned. We learned some lessons here about not boasting and about having wisdom to be smart. Also, I think that they learned that it was the right thing to do to invite the Water over to their house because, you know, it's very friendly. He said, I'm not ashamed to invite him. I would love to invite him. So they changed their house so that he can come. And I think that that's showing that it's the right thing to do. If you can do something to invite someone and make a friend, he said, yeah, that was the right wisdom to have, to include your friend. So that's cute. That's a very cute story. So if you have those vocabulary words written down in your notebook, keep them in there because tomorrow we're going to read How the Beetle Got Her Colors. And that story has the same vocabulary words that I just showed you today. I believe I have one more thing that I want to show you to preview what we're going to talk about tomorrow. This is a beetle. Do you see all the shiny colors that it has? Look at that. A beetle is a very interesting creature. Have you ever seen a beetle with such bright colors? For years, people have been trying to explain nature through stories. So here we go. Tomorrow we are going to read about how the beetle got the colors. And that's what a beetle looks like, and this is the story for tomorrow. It has the same vocabulary words that we just learned today. Remember, we're going to practice visualizing and finding the theme. This story has a great theme. See you tomorrow.